to Granny's place. Take the time and space to give yourself a break. Here you'll find some love, music, laughter, and above all, she'll dare to tell the truth. And so come to Granny's place and give your spirit a big boost.
Welcome to Granny's Place, a haven for love, entertainment, and uncommon sense. I'm a sweet baby James, and I'm here to introduce you to today's topic and also to Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks. Granny Rocks, Beth Green is an intuitively guided counselor with 38 years of experience. She's been a long-time social activist and is the author of 6 books on human behavior, so I think she knows something about people. She has unusual insights into our issues, personal and social, as well as a special warmth, which helps us look more honestly at ourselves. Plus, whatever the question, Granny uses music and humor to deliver a message that has universal applicability and addresses the heart of the matter. So even if you haven't submitted a question for this show, you may very well discover Granny's comments to other viewers, answer questions you don't even know you had. Be aware that Granny answers all questions in the order that she receives them, so please get your questions in as soon as possible. And so now, here's Granny.
So I didn't hear you say that the topic today is the topic we always have, which is you ask.
Oh, the topic today is you ask the questions and Granny provides the answers.
Right.
Of course.
We always hope, don't we?
We do.
Well, welcome to Granny's Place. I'm so glad to see you. I love the community that's growing around Granny's Place and Granny's Kitchen and Granny Raps on the news. 6:15 every Wednesday, Granny Raps on the news, and sometimes at 6:15, and that specific time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes at 6:15, when it isn't a Wednesday, you may hear me rapping on the news. And that video is going to be on Facebook, Granny Rocks On.
Yep.
Right? And after the live cast, it goes on, you can see it. Also, we have Granny's Place, of course, at 6:30 and at 7:15, which is 15 minutes after the live program. Live. At 7:15 Pacific time, we have Granny's Kitchen, where we all sit around and we have a deeper discussion about the topics. And it's just been wonderful. So you're invited to all the above.
Yes. So, shall we start with the first question?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see what the universe has in store for us
Alrighty.
today.
This is from Anonymous. Hi, Granny. I have a daughter that 17 years ago cut off all ties with me. Also, she has 3 children, my grandkid. We got back talking and I was an instant grandma. I'm so scared to lose her and the kids again. And that ripped my heart out. I cried for 6 years. And now I've been pulling away from her. I just can't put the past away. Any suggestions?
Wow. So, if I understand you correctly, and you're, I think the 3rd person in the last few weeks, 3rd woman who's had this kind of situation with a daughter who stopped talking to her, except that yours started talking to you and brought you that, warmth you were looking for, but now you're freaking out because you're afraid that she's going to take it away again, and so you can't relax into it. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah.
So, well, the first thing I think...
by the way, there wasn't an indication of fear that you'd take it away. It's more like she can't put away the hard feelings that she has about having been cut off all that time.
Right, but see, I think...
I'm
glad you said that,
on something else.
James. Well, I'm thinking that it's your fear. You don't want to be vulnerable to her because
I see.
You cry, I cry me a river. I can't find the notes for some reason. I'm just like completely blocked and couldn't find the notes on the piano. But anyway, you know the song. I cried a river over you. So
there it is.
my opera career is starting today. So anyway, other granny, other grandma, right? I understand how you feel. You don't want to give that any power over you. So you're going to be like cold, and you're going to just cut her off before she cuts you off. But then you're conflicted because you don't want to lose the kids, and you love being a grandma. And so what are you going to do? Because you're torn in two different directions. Well, which do you think is the higher course? What do you think, huh? I mean, that is, I'm not kidding. I get it. I get it that it's very scary. When you have been hurt, you don't want to trust that person again. You don't want to put your life and your heart into their hands. And so you're going to get judgmental and angry and do all that stuff just so that you're not vulnerable anymore, right?
Yeah.
This reminds me of the woman who was in that 20-year marriage that we talked to last week, and that she couldn't get past her feelings towards her husband, but she couldn't divorce him. And she said, well, why can't I let him go? And I said, well, maybe you still love him. So this reminds me a little bit of that. We were talking about how we become hostages when we love people. And so I think that it would be really good. See, what you didn't mention, and we don't know this, is why did your daughter cut you off to start with, right? And why has she been scared to connect to you? So I would suggest that instead of pulling further away from her, you try to get closer to her by having some deep, deep conversation. Not where you repeat the same old story over and over and over. So you did this, and I did this, and you did this, and boo da boo da bee da boo da. But like look into each other's eyes and sit there and talk about how it was when she was a child. Talk about what was going on in your family at the time. Help her to understand you and who you are and who you have been without getting into the recriminations and all of that stuff. Does this make any sense to you? And just have a really heartfelt conversation about life and who you were when you were growing up, and then what was going on in your life when she was born, and the different kinds of stresses you were under at the time, right? And what she was going through, and see if you can build understanding, because with understanding you may build the trust that will allow you to relax a little bit more into that relationship. And then there's one more thing that I would like to add, which is know that you can live without her. Even though you cried every day because you lost her and the grandchildren, you survived. Somehow, I suspect you survived, because if you're crying, you're surviving, right?
And even
you can't
then,
cry if you're dead.
She cried for 6 years, and then there was another 11 years where she was surviving without crying as so much.
Yes, well, I'm not sure. Maybe that's because that was when they got back together again. So what I'm saying to you is, you have to know, and we all need to know this, that we may feel grief, but we're not going to die if we don't have someone. You can go be a good grandma to somebody else's children. There's so many children in the world that need love and need care. Your daughter's kids are not the only ones. Oh, I understand you have a sentimental attachment and it's your child, but it's but think, somebody needs you. Somebody needs you. Somebody needs you. Somebody needs you, girl. So feel the strength of that. Even if this should happen again, I can do this. And I'm going to, instead of crying, I'm going to be wiping the tears of some child who desperately needs help. So that's my suggestion, and I hope that I've helped you.
Thank you, Granny. This one's from Luann. Hi, Granny. I'm struggling to respond and interact with people who become dismissive, uncomfortable, and preachy when women talk about unacceptable behavior that they have endured in the past. I can feel tension increasing during these conversations, and I don't want to escalate into a combative situation.
Okay, can you read that again? Because I'm not grokking this.
Okay. I'm struggling
Yeah.
to respond and interact with people who become dismissive, uncomfortable, and preachy when women talk about an unacceptable behavior that they have endured in the past. I can feel tension increasing during these conversations, and I don't want it to escalate into a combative situation. I want to support both sides of this conversation, and am at a loss for words. Thank you for your words of wisdom.
Okay, what I understand is you are with people who are disagreeing with each other and are being unpleasant or judgmental or something. So there are some women, did she say women?
Yeah, women who have endured abuse, basically.
And is it men or women who are doing the judging? Did she say?
Don't know. People. She just said people.
Okay. So I can see that, okay, there is tension in the room. Either men are being mocking or making some kind of fun of some woman who has endured some kind of abuse, or it's women who are doing that, or this woman is, has demonstrated some self-abuse and she's being judged. But whatever the specifics of it, you don't like the feeling of rancor, of anger at each other that goes along with all that judgment. And you're feeling like, oh, what am I going to do? It's like, should I head for the hills or what should I do? And should I get out of it? Should I get into it? Should I defend somebody? Should I take sides?
Yeah, and how do we deal with these people that become so reactive just talking about what has happened to women?
Right, if that's what it's about. So read me that last line again.
Well, people who become dismissive, uncomfortable, and preachy when women talk about unacceptable behavior that they have endured in the past. And I feel the tension increasing during these conversations, fearing that they'll escalate into a combative situation. I want to support both sides of this conversation, and I'm at a loss for words.
Okay, so let's say if it's literally what you said, and if I have understood it, let's say some woman talks about having been sexually abused or harassed or something, and then there's people there who are blame them in some way, is what you're saying. But in any case, whether it's that scenario or one of the other scenarios that I just went on, it's like you feel very upset because you feel the judgment and you don't want to take sides. Well, I can understand not wanting to take sides if you're doing it from a higher place. For instance, if you say, well, what good is it going to do if I'm going to take sides here? They're killing each other anyway, right? What is it going to do if one more voice comes in arguing or taking sides? But do you really, and maybe this is why I had so much trouble, because I'm very intuitive, maybe the reason that I'm having so much trouble understanding your question is that maybe you already have taken sides. Maybe you feel one side or the other, and the reason, I said a minute ago, sometimes we don't want to speak up because we don't want to create more rancor and argument. We want to bring people together. But sometimes we don't want to speak up because we're scared. And we don't want to be hurt by the people who are doing the judging or the yelling or whatever it is. And then both sides start judging and yelling or whatever it is. So if your motivation is to deal with your own fear, then I suggest the answer is, what are you afraid of that's going to happen if you do? And not take sides. It's not about taking sides. It's being able to give your valuable perception of what is really going on. So if you see that people are in denial or they're being abusive towards someone who's already been abused, then you do have to say something, don't you? So what we're dealing with is your fear. And that would be my guess, like your fear. And then you say, well, what am I afraid of? What are they going to do to me? Where is this fear coming from? How do I handle my fear in a situation where I see that people can be very judgmental? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to cut me off? Are they going to hurt me? Are they going to stop being my friend? Are they going to stop helping me? Are they just going to give me the look or whatever it is? What exactly is that I'm afraid of? And then when you say, okay, well, what is it that I'm afraid of? Oh, okay, so let's say what you're afraid of is they won't like you anymore and they'll put bad vibes out to you when they see you. Well, assuming that you can't avoid being with them, if people are putting bad vibes out to you on a consistent basis, you talk to them. You say, I've noticed that you've been putting out bad vibes to me, or whatever words you use. And it's like, ever since I confronted you on this, what I think is a very judgmental and wrong approach to dealing with people who've been abused. So then you just talk to them about it. It's like, uh-oh, you have to open your mouth yet again, right? First time you open your mouth to confront what you don't like, and the second time is you have to open your mouth to confront the fact that the person you confronted is now putting out bad vibes at you. Oh my God, 2 occasions of opening your mouth.
Yeah, even becoming combative in that first instance. And then certainly bad feelings. Yeah.
That's right. So it's like, well, let's say they do. So let's say they do. So then you get to ask yourself, so what am I afraid of? Okay, so he's going to get pissy with me. And he's like, and then I'm going to go talk to him and say, I really want to talk to you about this because I think that ever since we had that conversation, you have gone back south on me and I don't like it. And I want to know because all I did was tell you what I really believed. Is that not okay in a friendship? Or do you want to protect yourself from the truth? Or what the heck is going on? And let's say the person says, you dirty bitch. I said it. You're a terrible person. You're so awful. You are. What are they going to say? I mean, what are they going to do to you? The knife is coming out. Probably not. So, what's the worst that'll happen? So I always say, okay, what's the worst that'll happen is they won't like me anymore. Well, and then what are you losing? So you say, well, okay, they don't like me anymore. So what's so bad about that? So I don't like them. Truth is, I really don't like them. I don't like the way they behave. So why should I care whether or not they like me? Oh, well, this person holds my life in their hand. Really? Do they 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 do it? Do they really hold your life in your hand? I don't think so. They may want you to think that, but that doesn't mean that it is true, does it? So, whatever it is, whatever point you get to, you say, and what would be so bad about, what's the worst that'll happen? The worst that'll happen to any of us is that we're dead. Well, how bad is that? I really don't know. I haven't tried it yet. So, but this doesn't sound like that kind of a situation. I mean, if you're in with a bunch of people with knives, maybe you should just back out and say, maybe this isn't my battle. Maybe it is your battle. Maybe you need to develop courage. And this is the perfect place for you to do it. And, you do it sweetly and you do it with, I really want to understand your position, but it seems to me that you are being very judgmental here. You're not listening to this woman and you're not being empathetic. I'd like to know why. So, you can be sane, you can be caring, you can be thoughtful. You don't have to be judgmental, but you can go into the inquiry. And then if they are really obnoxious and hurtful, then you won't love yourself if you don't say anything about it. So I hope I understood you. If not, would you please send me a correction on the next show? Okay.
Very good. This next question is from Anonymous. My mother was abused by her father and then made me sleep with him when I was a small girl, and he molested me.
So her father molested this girl, made her sleep with her father, not with her husband or not with
That's right.
her
with
father.
The little girl's grandfather.
The little girl's grandfather.
Yeah. Ugh. She then stayed with the man who molested me later, saying, am I supposed to leave him? I've been so damaged by these and other events, so much so that I've become a drug addict and I've wanted to die.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
I've been sober for decades, but I have depression and anxiety and so much rage toward her for not protecting me. I want to forgive her, but she continues to say and do hurtful things to me. In spite of it all, I can't stop feeling love for her at the same time. What can I do to move toward forgiveness of her? I know I need to forgive myself too, and that it's all wrapped up together.
Wow, that is so intense. You know, that is so bad, because this woman learned at an early age to acquiesce to a man, right? Because she learned to acquiesce to her father, right?
Yes.
So she was so habituated to acquiesce to her father that she let you be molested by him as well, and she acquiesces to men in general, or so it seems by the story you're saying. Certainly in terms of you and your sexuality, if she allowed that to happen to you too, knowing then that this woman has been damaged, and it doesn't sound like she's had any healing around it. I'm assuming that you've had some help because you've recovered from your drug addiction, and which is fantastic. I don't know if you've had therapy, and if you've had therapy about these issues, and it doesn't sound like your mother has had any, because she certainly hasn't taken any accountability for what she did. What you need, honey, number one, and you may never get it, is an amends. You know, we can't forgive someone if they don't acknowledge what they do. I mean, you know, it's one thing to say, well, I'm going to turn the other cheek, I'm a good Christian, or I'm a good whatever I am, and I'm going to be forgiving and all of that. But in our hearts, I will tell you something. We don't really let it go until somebody looks us in the face. And I want to tell you, in that book, Living with Reality, which is a free download on the innerrevolution.org website. Go to the innerrevolution.org. Download that book. You don't have to read the whole book. In the very back, well, I'd love if you did, but in the very back, there is something that I call the amend step. And the amend step is not, oh, yeah, gee, tough, I'm sorry, or whatever it is. You really go on and say, I did this, how it hurt you is this, and even though I couldn't have done any better at the time, I need to ask you to forgive me. Will you forgive me? And, of course, you have to fill in the blanks, but it's all written down in that book. And there's a whole platform on accountability, becoming accountable, platform 7, I believe. And you need that. You're like crying for it, and you love your mother is understandable. You know, children often love even the most abusive parents, but that's because your safety was more dependent on her than anybody else. I mean, you didn't have anybody else in the family protecting you, it seems. So, you know, your mother was allowing you to be abused, but she wasn't directly abusing you, so she seemed like the safest person on the block, right? But of course she wasn't, but that your mother needs to come to some peace about herself. She needs to understand herself, and she needs to make amends to you for you fully be able to forgive her. Because when she makes amends, because one of the things that I talk about in that step is the person who makes amends needs to have compassion for themselves when they're doing it. It's like, even though I couldn't have done any better at the time. Because we have to understand why we do it. If your mother understood herself and she could make amends to you, she wouldn't have to be negative towards you anymore. That is a real self-defense, I think. Of course, we're only knowing a portion of the story, but there it is. Now, it's not unusual for those of us who have been molested, as I have been too, as well as sexually abused in many other ways, to feel guilty. I mean, this you've got to know, and one of the things that's happening in our world today with the Christine Ford event is so much, and the Me Too movement and all that, so much. You know how many women have felt ashamed of being molested. It's like something is wrong with us. And if you were molested and your mother participated in this, which she did, then you've gotten a message at a very early age that you're not worth protecting. That someone and their needs is more important than yours. That's a bad message. So I don't know what else happened to you if you participated. Sometimes we participate in a molest because it's the only person who ever pays any attention to us. or we want to feel powerful and we think that somehow, if we can seduce a guy that we'll feel more powerful. There's all kinds of things that we can do. Does not make it any less horrific, because the adult is responsible for not molesting you no matter what you did. So here's my suggestions, and I've got a lot of suggestions for you, is like, one is you get some counseling. And I'm a counselor, but there are other counselors. You don't have to go to me. If you are interested in me, you go to theinnerrevolution.org, private time with Beth, and you book yourself a session. But go anywhere. Secondly, realize that it's very difficult for you to
May I just interject here?
Yes.
That the person doesn't have to be geographically near you.
Oh, good point, because I do everything on the internet.
That's right.
I do my sessions on the internet, and I'm intuitive, and I can get to stuff really pretty fast. And if there is something in you that's feeling guilty about this, then I can help you figure out what that is. And then you will be able to get peace, because you can't let go of the anger either. If you feel guilty, you won't be able to forgive your mother, because you're actually reacting to your own guilt. And then the second thing is, you need to tell your mother that you want to forgive her, but you need her to make amends. And, read that chapter on accountability. Read the part of the chapter that's about making amends. Try to understand that. Understand, no matter what your mother does, that she was conditioned to give up herself to men. I mean, she said it. What, do you expect me to leave him? Yeah, I expect you to leave him, right? And know that the message that you got as a child is, you are not as important as that man and his needs. You are not as important as my security in keeping that man. You are not as important as the other children in this family, if there are any, who need his financial support. Now, there is something else that I want to say to you. I don't know yet what it is, but I'm just trying to connect to you. I don't know if this will mean anything to you, but I care. And everyone else in the audience right now, whether you're a man or a woman, I want you to direct this thought to Anonymous. I care. I care what happened to you. I cared about what happened to your mother that made her this way. I care about what happened to the man and those men that made them so desperate to look powerful that they had to abuse a child. I care about all of you. But I want you to really take in that I care about you. And all of us, send that energy and that thought to this woman. We care. You got the message that you weren't worth caring about, but you are worth caring about. And we care.
We care.
And just take that into your heart. And start doing the right things for yourself. It's wonderful that you got clean from your drug addiction. That was an act of self-love. But there's a lot of other ways that you are not showing that you care about yourself. And I want you to go back in time to that time when you could first articulate, and your mother is encouraging you to go to bed with your grandfather, and you say, no. And just feel every cell of your body saying, no. No. Whether it's your grandfather or your father or any other man that you've let abuse you, no, because you can feel the support of all of us. No to them. Yes to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it for today, isn't it?
Yes. So you're invited to join us right after the show. With
Yes,
Granny's
please
Kitchen.
come to Granny's Kitchen. We'll talk about this. You
and
can
then
even come on
also-
anonymously. You can.
Yeah.
It's on the internet. You can
Mhm.
call in. Send me your questions. The sooner you get your questions
Mhm.
in, the sooner I can answer it. Any post for Granny's place will have the information on how to send in your question. There'll be information on how to come to Granny's Kitchen 15 minutes after this live show. Join our conversation. You can call in if you don't have the internet connection. All the information is
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
But we like to do the video conference. But you can even do that anonymously. Come to Granny's place. It's a safe haven
Yes.
for all of us, including those who molest,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to understand you too. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good.
Till
Okay.
next week.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.